We're live. Hello, dear Starshines. Christina here with Lightbody Academy. Welcome to today's lunchtime chats. For those of you who are new, my name is Christina, and I am an acceleration expert. And we are here to talk about topics and issues that are significant for us starseeds, way showers, new paradigm visionaries. We have abilities and perceptions that are very unique to us that perhaps are not embraced by the masses of humanity. Therefore, our problems, we need to come from very different places when we're problem solving and working through our challenges. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'll give everybody a minute to come on board. And while we pause here, I'll just get my topics out for today. Thank you, everybody who participated with these questions and topics this week. I really appreciate your feedback and your activity that you've been posting in the group. If you want to be in the audience or to participate in the cultivation of these topics, I invite you to check out our Telegram group called It looks like the system is going spontaneously on mute as I talk, so I'll keep a closer eye on that. Thank you guys for calling me out or getting my awareness on that. I'm gonna back up and start over because I don't know where the mute happened. So I'll start off with the topics. So the topics are. We're going to be talking about one of the pieces is conspiracy theories. By us focusing on the question is if we focus on them, do we participate in manifesting them, or is there just parallel realities of us going on? And she wants to know my take on that. And then another dear Starshine was asking about is there a good way to sift through the bombardment of info? And is there a way to do it with discerningly? Because as you guys know, there's so much information happening right now, and some of it is so exact opposite of the narrative that we grew up with, especially with some of these redefinings of history and stuff like that, right? So we're going to talk about that, and then a dear Starshine is asking about what they might do for his mom, who they suspect is having symptoms due to shedding. So welcome everybody to the topics today. If you have experience with, thank you, dear Spirit Ground. If you have experience with any of these pieces that I'm talking about, I would love, and I'm sure everybody in this community would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts about that? Focusing on conspiracy theories and jumping timelines, or how it might be contributing into the manifestation, or perhaps what do you do to practice discernment with information? There's a lot of alternative information that gets posted, particularly in our groups. How do you sift? How do you discern? And then, of course, there's information coming out of the woodwork, so to speak. All right. And if you have any insights about the shedding and any personal experiences, I'd be interested in hearing that. Now, I know there's a lot of people talking about it. There's a lot of doctors and other kinds of specialists and researchers talking about it. That's one thing, but what's more powerful is when you share your own personal experience. This is part of how we sift through the information, because we get exposed to a lot of different narratives, and some of them may be triggering. And it could be triggering because it's false, or it could be triggering because it's true, and we have an aversion to looking at that perspective, okay? Or somewhere in between. So when you share your personal experiences, you're helping people, digest this information, because now they have a personal story to reference ... right? So this is how I became such a fan of ivermectin, because I have personal friends that have used it and gotten a lot better, very much more quickly, right? And rave about it. And they say that completely turned them around. That's people who've used it to treat themselves on the front end, and people who've used it to treat themselves on the back end, as far as having those, it's called something syndrome. It's when the symptoms are prolonged and you have them for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So because of the personal stories that were shared with me, people that I know, and I understand who they are, and my sense is that they're being completely authentic and honest with me, because there's no agenda. They're just expressing their experience. That helps me decide, because we are overwhelmed with all this information. What doctor do you believe? What specialist do you believe? What research do you believe? What do you resonate with? Is what you're resonating with a deeper truth, or is it part of your own programming? Right? There's a lot to sort through. Hello, dear Sister Louise. Glad to see you. Hello, Carol. It's back. Yes, we're back. Woohoo! Okay, so let me get to what piece? So I'm going to go ahead and dive into the shedding piece, and I want to read. All right, so dear Brother Starshine, he is deeply concerned about his mother, and I want to read the way he put it. So there was a really long posting, so I'm not going to read that whole thing, but he told the story. He really loves his mom, and his mom is having some really bad symptoms, almost debilitating, and they're not getting any progress with allopathic medicine. And if something were to happen to his mom, it's kind of like the experience in his end is that it's the end of his world as he knows it, like all safety gone, all different kinds of support gone. And, so it really means her death is a form of his death as well. So don't think that any of that's lost on me, dear Brother Starshine. I totally understand that. I totally feel you. Okay. All right. So he says, what happens when I dig my heels in and make a conscious decision to refuse to move forward in life? And is the result always punishment multiplied by pressure and time? And if moving forward always requires effort and discomfort, is free will more about perception of life and less about actual freedom within it? Okay, so this was a twofold piece. One was he was asking questions about that shedding thing, and then there's this piece here about what happens when life is bringing something that feels like an affront and you don't go in it, you refuse to participate. Okay, in a way, these two issues are together because we are in uncertain, unknown times. And a lot of us feel like we're in that kind of position when we're facing the narrative, when we're facing forced choices, when we're facing, the dark stuff that's really getting unleashed on the mass, on the populations right now. Okay, so first, let's go into that. So times are changing. There is no going back. I have, many of us here already know the ship has sailed. There is no going back to normal anymore. Now it's about, we are in this gauntlet of finding challenges, alchemizing these different challenges and power over moves and dynamics. It's like we're in a gauntlet here to reintegrate and reclaim. How do we reclaim our sovereignty and our personal space and all this stuff with each of these hurdles that we're being confronted with, right? So it's a gauntlet. This is how I see it. But at the same time, many of us, we are way showers. We are creative. We think out of the box. We understand things in a very different way. So the kinds of choices we have are a lot different than those really stuck in the program, because stuck in the program is either or. And we have the creativity, the know-how, the courage to invent that door number 3. And if we don't like door number 3, we'll invent door number 4, right? Okay. So when it comes to life is a flow. Think of life as a river. And this is ancient Taoist teachings, actually. Life is a river, and you either learn how to paddle with the flow, or you paddle across the flow, or you just refuse to go to participate at all, which means the river just takes you for the ride. There is no paddling upriver, really. It takes way too much energy. So those are actually the choices in front of you. There actually is no standing still. It's impossible because you're in a river flow. So you either use all of your courage, all of your passion, all of your energy to try to hold yourself in the current so you're not moving, right? Or you can surrender into the flow and just let it sweep you away, just take you away. Or you can use your talents, your passions, your energy to navigate, to make mindful choices here and there, where you're still going with the flow, but you're paddling on this side or paddling on that side to give yourself a steering. Okay, this is the nature of life. So there's no way to not move forward. It is impossible. Life will overcome you, will take you, and then either way you're going to end up getting going down the river, whether you like it or not. And I know that might seem frustrating, but if you learn to surrender into things and go with what's happening versus fighting against, then there's an easier way. Like miracle options start dropping out of the woodwork for you. So that's the way I can respond to that, with the not wanting to dig your heels. Now, when we are in that process of going with the flow and in that surrender piece, not that you have to completely surrender in order to go with the flow, but there's certain parts of yourself you need to let go of. And that's the parts of yourself that want to resist and fight what is, in the sense of, not participating in the river that your soul has you in, right? You're in the river. There's no way around it. So, but what I'm saying is that if you let that soul path carry you, it is uncomfortable. It is scary. It is challenging. It's not that it's, you're on this wonderful boat ride and it's great. It's like, no, your ego driver, because we're trained the way we've been trained, our ego drivers we constantly have to face the boundaries of what our ego driver creates, which means the more uncomfortable we are, the more in the moment taking action in those uncomfortable places, the stronger we become, the more we grow. Okay, the more resilient we become, right? So this is an important lesson what the Tao are talking about when you look at life as a river, that you, by curtailing here and there and taking a mindful action, purposeful actions in certain ways, you go through a training that creates you, or trains you to become your own master, to be a master of your circumstance, versus just managing your circumstances. You actually start to realize that you are one with the river. You are actually part of the river, okay? And then you start navigating through life and reality differently. Okay. So yeah, let me activate one of those charts real quick, and I'll get going on that other piece. Some of the symptoms that he was talking about his mom had were really bad headaches and vomiting and stuff like this. Okay, and there's the answer that I have is multifold. For those of you who've seen that thread, that thread in the Rise group, I posted because he specified I'm not asking for medical advice, right? Which is great. Thank you for letting me off the hook on that. But I do want to share with you some protocols that have been developed to mitigate the physical stuff, and I posted a link to those protocols in that thread, in that conversation. Okay, and I would just paste it in Facebook, and I've tried many times to paste it just into our group in Facebook, and Facebook won't even the post button stays completely dimmed. It won't even let me post it. Rather than post it and then pull it, it won't even let me post it. So what I've done is I've put that protocol in our multidimensional human group in Telegram, so you can check it out. And that link is what is in the thread of this conversation in the Rise group. Okay, so just to connect those dots for you, if that's something that's interesting for you. Now, this comes from David Wolf, who is a well-known holistic wellness researcher. He's into optimal health and living. For a long time, he was into the raw food, the vegan diet. I don't know if he's still into that or not, but he's definitely he's kind of like the go-to guy in this regard, because he's been researching these things like crazy, and he has been developing this protocol with feedback. Like, people have been doing it and giving him feedback, so it's not just him selling products, right? Some of the stuff he is selling, so just heads up on that. Some of the stuff he is selling, but you don't have to buy it from him. But it's a good idea to buy it from him, because he is committed 100% to quality. So he's not one of those, he's not going to sell supplements and stuff that have a bunch of fillers and, that aren't even real. Like what a lot of our market is flooded with, stuff that has no quality. Okay. So this chart here is the lens. The 4D lens filters out everything in our experience. So all of the higher dimensional frequencies that come into our awareness from our inner being gets filtered through this lens. This lens is cultivated by stories, is cultivated by our ideas of who we think we are. Okay. And then the 3D, this is the linear space right here. We have our telluric realm, which is the elemental realm. And then we have the core of the earth, the whole reason why we're here, the heart and mind, the consciousness of the Pachamama. I know I'm breezing through this quickly because I have a lot to go through, and I really want to get to these pieces. But this right here, I want to reference a video that dear sister Joanne posted in our alternate group. So our alternate group was created, is called Empowered Souls and Free Thinkers Alliance. It's on Facebook. The reason why we have that group is because that's where we can post things that are really controversial or things that are highly censored. And that way that group will take the hit and not our Rise group, because our Rise group gets taken off feeds and stuff like this once we have a certain number of postings that is considered, fact checked as false and that kind of thing. So we have this alternate group called Empowered Souls and Free Thinkers Alliance on Facebook for alternative history postings and stuff like this. And dear sister Joanne posted, I'm pretty sure it was you, Joanne, that posted an alternate story about Sumeria and the Anunnaki, Enki, and Enlil. And it's a great, I encourage you guys to check out that video. It's not a real long one. It's like 16 minutes long or something like that. And there is a lot of truth in what they were saying in there. Now the time frames and stuff isn't in my perception not completely accurate, but that's just because we're talking about a multidimensional civilization that was existing. Same thing with Atlantis and Egypt. It's very hard to pin that down into a specific time frame because of its multidimensional nature. Because it's multidimensional, those cultures, they go in and out of timelines. They go in and out of frequencies of reality that we have access to. So it's really difficult for me to pinpoint things sometimes in a linear time space. But anyway, watch that video. I encourage you guys to check it out. A lot of you guys probably already know about it, but I want to talk about the DNA manipulation that it was talking about. So the atom, the original atom, and according to the Anunnaki narrative, was created to be a slave race, but remember, this is a story. This is a story to either open you up or close you down, right? A story that you are told can open you up to your higher levels or cut you off from those higher levels, okay? So remember, the Anunnaki had an interest in a slave race, a race that is obedient to them, and not only obedient to them, but a race that worships them, okay? That was what they wanted. That was what was supposed to be created. And that was what was created. And the thing is that those beings that were created could not breed, okay? They were... there was a word for it, not sterile, but they couldn't breed like mules. Like mules can't breed. I don't know if you guys know that. If you take a donkey and a horse and breed them together, and the reason why you'd want to do that because donkeys are extraordinarily strong. Like little tiny donkey is 10 times stronger than a big horse, right? But they cross a donkey and a horse together to make a much bigger version of the donkey, and you get a mule. Mules cannot procreate. Mules can't, they're there's a word for it. they're sterile. And that's how this breed of seeding of humans were, so-called humans were, that the Anunnaki created. Well, but then what happened was, in this story, Enki actually gifted the spark of life to a sect of humans, which meant they can breed, they can reprocreate. Okay. Now, this is really important because this ties in here, I promise. The reason why it's really important is because for them to get the spark of life, that means that they can no longer be owned. Creator, they are now part of Creator, and they cannot be separated from Creator. And this is why the other Anunnaki got so upset when Enki did this. Okay. But there was assurance in place that their stories, their belief systems, their programming creates such a shield, such a blinder that they'll never be awake. They'll never consciously reconnect with the spark of life, okay, which is the infinite creator aspect that lives within them, okay? This shield right here, this lens is the genetic manipulation. That is the genetic manipulation. Let that sink in. This lens and all the stories and programs put into it is what shuts down your DNA dance, is what shut down your consciousness. This is why it's so important for us to wake up to the truth so we can have some avenue past this lens and wake up those dormant DNA dances, the ones that belong to our divine spark, that belong to our essence. This is so, so, so important for us to wake up to and realize. And now we have souls coming here that are more and more and more within the spectrum of consciousness of their divine essence. So this for a lot of them, this field right here is shattered or tattered. It's just in pieces, and that means there's not a lot of programming that can piggyback on the field energetically for them, because it's not a solid structure. It's not as anchored in as with the the ancient races. Now, this isn't to say that humanity didn't wake up, because they did, because they had the sacred Mary lines. They had the mystery schools where women retook command of the birthing process, and they decide who incarnated here on this planet and who didn't. Okay. And they were able to, cultivate DNA that was not trapped or shut down by this canopy. Okay. Many mysteries. That's how those mystery schools really arose. But like everything else, things get infiltrated. And that's what happened. It got infiltrated, which is why they all fell. All right. Hello, dear sister Nancy from Virginia. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Joanne says, learn to stay away from the rocks and how to catch the next wave. Yes, yes, yes. A good surfing is a wonderful metaphor for life, isn't it? Spirit Bound says, strange question. Is it possible to identify with both Anunnaki and proto-humans? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, all right, that is because there's veils lifting that even that hold these stories together. They're actually lifting and not there, and we can feel the resonance of our own connection with the different beings of the Anunnaki, with the different beings of past humans that have been seeded before. Now, I said there were multiple seedings of humans. We have access through our resonance to all of those past seedings of humans, okay? Why? Because it's all in the records of the Pachamama. It's all in the deep stored deep within us, okay? So as we activate our DNA dances more and more and more, that sympathetic resonance just breaks right through those barriers, and we have access to all life, that the records that of all life that has ever walked upon this earth. That means dinosaurs, that means Sasquatch, that means ant people, that means the amoebas. Okay, we can go all the way back to the original sacred dreamers that created this reality. Okay, those are profound elemental beings that I'm talking about. Through our resonance, we can touch that. So there's no limit at all, darling. And this is why I keep saying that reality is not what we think it is. It's not what we think it is. It's way more fluid. It's way more flexible than that. Okay, so I took us into expansion. Now in this expanded state, let's talk about let's bring it back into the bandwidth of the human experience in relationship to the shenanigans going on. Try to keep that expansive feeling while I talk about this particular narrative, okay? So because when you do that, when you can hold both in your awareness, then the narrative, the narrowing narrative that I'm about to share with you does not hinder your ability in any way, shape, or form. If anything, your more expanded state will start to infuse and alchemize this more narrow version of a narrative that I'm about to share. Okay, so do your best to do that. So let's talk about this shedding thing, and dear brother Starshine, whose mom's having these really terrible symptoms. And I met your mom a couple times in person. She is so sweet, and I know that she loves you. She loves you. So I just feel moved to say that, darling. She absolutely loves you. All right, so the shedding thing. Now, something you need to realize all right, so the narrative is, there's a lot of narratives that dismiss that, say it's conspiracy theory. Me personally, I know that it's not. And how do I know that? And that is because for decades I was a body work practitioner. I did orthopedic body work for many years. And it is a fact that all humans shed trillions of cells every single day. It is a fact. It's not something that's up for dispute. It is a scientific reality, something I've experienced many times over, because that's just how the human body is. We shed hairs, we shed skin cells. How many massage therapists in here have done body work on people and had skin surface epithelial cells start to actually collect from the body that you're rubbing on your hand, okay? I know that might sound gross, but that really happens. And what is in these skin cells? I mean, it's not just dead skin that's getting shed, it's toxins, it's things that the body wants to eliminate. Our skin is part of the integumentary system, and our skin is considered an organ because it detoxes. It detoxes like our kidneys detox, okay? So it has a really important role. Think about jaundice. When people have major liver issues and toxins are building up in their liver and their kidneys are overwhelmed, they start to eliminate out their skin. Their skin turns yellow, their eyes turn yellow. Okay, so this is a thing that really is so. To imagine putting anything in your body and that it's not going to come out of you, shed through you, is absolutely ludicrous. Have you guys ever eaten eaten at an Italian restaurant that just is over the top on the garlic, right? You're oozing garlic out your pores for days after that, right? That's just garlic. It's the same thing with people who drink all the time. They're oozing toxins out of their skin. I can smell an alcoholic from a mile away because it's coming out. So this is a real thing that happens. And I want to talk about just some of my personal experiences that I've discovered. One of the things that, with my experience of the COVID, I should not say the word, darn it, with the spike protein, right, is that when I got it way back in the beginning before the quarantine ever happened, it started by mind thoughts that were not mine. They were like angry mind thoughts, bitter, like it was really heavy. And that was kind of like, I woke up with it recording in my brain, right? And I felt sick. My body felt inflamed. My joints hurt. I was coming down with the flu. And these thoughts were in my head. And I was just like, gosh, these thoughts are not me. This is not how I am. I don't feel this. This is not how I operate. It's not my default. And so to wake up in that kind of state was weird for me. So I just corrected. I self-corrected, right? I realigned my system. I realigned everything to be back to how I normally am in my equilibrium, and my symptoms went away instantly. Okay. So I found with the CV that it comes with interdimensional emotional mental programs that run. So if we don't check our negative thinking, our angry thinking, our blamey thinking, stuff like this, it piggybacks on those recordings and exacerbates them, and it impacts your nervous system and it impacts the body. So, when people who've gone through detoxing, you totally get that detoxing is more than just physical detoxing. There's a deep emotional component to detoxing. There's a deep mental component to detoxing. So it's like you have to purge mentally and emotionally to go through an intense physical detox. So what I'm introducing here is not necessarily a new thing. And there's many other light workers have echoed the same sentiment. So with that particular thing alone, that in itself, we can choose differently. That is how you would mitigate your body processing the spike protein. That's the energetic, the sovereign thing that you can do. There's physical things you can do as well, which I posted in that thread. The other thing I noticed was there was magnetic impact. In the spring, I went to a public event it was a public event in the woods. It's a bunch of Sasquatch folks. And I was coming across certain people that were sharing their vaccine stories, and a lot of them had negative, actually, though I only spoke to the ones that offered information, but none of them were positive. The one dear gentleman was saying how it impacted his meditation. He couldn't sink in as deep like he used to and all this other stuff. And not but an hour after being in very close contact with him, I started to have my menstruation started to kick on, which was very unusual. And, so I started having my moon cycles impacted by the different magnetic fields that were going on with my interactions. As soon as I discovered that, I developed with focused meditation very quickly. It was super easy. And we do this in the Academy all the time. And that was to reclaim magnetics. And as soon as I made it a habit to reclaim the magnetics in my body and my field, then I wasn't impacted by the electromagnetic stuff that was going on with those who received the jab. So there's that part. There's that kind of thing. And the other thing that I have experience with is the graphic I can't say it out loud. GO, and I also call them bots. So do your research on the GOs. And know that really is a thing. If you ever hear Morgellons is a real thing. Okay, so this is something that's closely related to that. And I kind of feel like Morgellons was the prototype to the highly refined version that they're using now, which is the GO. Anyway, GO works off of magnetics as well. So again, checking your magnetic field is going to help. Managing your acid and inflammation, that is a huge piece, because those bots actually use right, there's something called action potential with chemical reactions. So something with a really big action potential, when you put them together, there's a big reaction. Okay, so acid has a really high action potential, and it utilizes the acidic action potential in your body to actually to fuel these bots to do certain things, to bond in certain ways and stuff like this. And once they bond to a certain critical mass, they start producing their own magnetic field. You can absolutely mitigate that by this thing that I'm talking about, by reclaiming your magnetics, reclaiming your thoughts and your emotions, keeping your system at peace and calm, keeping yourself in a rest and digest place as often as possible. Okay, there's these pieces do impact. So I don't want to scare anybody about this, but it is real, and you do need to take care of yourself. Take care of your health. Every single person I know that was channeling after 2012 about the future, what's to come in the transition, the number one thing that was repeated without exception was take care of your health. Every single being that was channeled between 2015 and 2019, that was a major piece of their message. Go back to old videos, and see what they say. I promise you, all of them were referring to take care of your health. So this is you taking care of your health, understanding what it is to keep yourself and take good care of this biosuit so it can operate accordingly, so you can keep it. Because if you don't claim responsibility for your health and wellness and well-being, other things are going to step in and take authority, right? So you can mitigate acid and inflammation by how you eat, how you spend your time, how much nature, being exposed to nature, being exposed to negative ions. Negative ions is the exact opposite of what's produced by electronics. So electronics is flooding your home, flooding your room, flooding your car, flooding your space with positive ions, which actually weakens your body's positive charge. But if you surround yourself with negative ions, like when you're in nature or whatever, then you're supporting and enhancing the body's positive charge. So there's those, and pick which way you want to mitigate. Pick multiple ways, whatever way that you could do. I know diet is not always the default that people go to because of its difficulty and convenience and all these other ways. So there's other things you could be doing. Your lifestyle can be impacted by lots and lots of different habits. There is a formula that was put out there, and I've heard it done in different measurements. I caution you to be very careful with this particular protocol, and that is baking soda and borax. And that's where you take some water, 6 ounces of water, put a pinch of baking soda and then a pinch of borax, and then you either sip that 3 times a day or drink that 3 times a day. So I've heard that in different ways. So you have to do your own research and decide what the proper dosage is for you on that. That is to help mitigate acid inflammation in your body. Now, inflammation is physical, but it's also emotional, mental. So remember that. You need to check your thoughts, check how you're thinking, check your mode, like this. Your nervous system needs to be sedated and relaxed as often as possible. So make a habit to take a meditative bath, make a habit to stimulate the vagus nerve throughout your day. Now, how to propagate vagus nerve activation, breathing exercises, any kind of pranayama will do it. There's some really cool tricks with laying on your back and turning your eyes to look to 3 o'clock, right? And when you do that, you're stimulating the vagus nerve, and then your body will start to burp and yawn, do things like this. That's signs that the vagus nerve is being activated. So there's those sorts of things that you could be doing. She could be doing. Now, the other thing that I haven't mentioned here that is also important to recognize is that EMF is a real thing. That absolutely is a real thing. EMF creates alternate realities or subspace realities. Subspace, too much Star Trek. Sub realities, right? But you need to recognize how when your system is in a weakened state, how these things can come in and occupy your space. So EMF mitigation can be done in lots of ways. There's all sorts of EMF dampeners. There's shungite. There's orgone things. So there's lots of things to mitigate. But but choose one, choose something that works. You can actually you can create a drawing in sacred measure and proper resonance and actually use that to mitigate the EMF coming from devices. Electric meters, 5G, and the Starlink, all that stuff, we've just exponentially multiplied the amount of EMF in our environment. Okay, so those of us who are EMF sensitive, your symptoms are skyrocketing. And it just so happens, dear Starshine, when you shared your story about your mom being sick and all going through that, my mother-in-law also just had a similar episode. So, there's the timing of that was very interesting. All right, let me check in with some of our comments that we have going on here. Spirit Bound, yeah, thank you. Polly says, I use food grade hydrogen peroxide for all kinds of reasons. Okay, so this works for Polly, hydrogen peroxide. Very good. Yeah, so there's so many, just, talk to people, find out what they've used and what works. There's so many ways to mitigate. We're not powerless here. The idea, the collective program is that you're powerless and you only have this or that to choose from. And that is absolutely a lie. We are not powerless. We have our awareness. We have our focus. We have our consciousness. We have so many choices. We have our creativity to invent things. We have so much to our access on an infinite level that, we don't need to accept the narrative and say that's all there is. And let me get coming on to those conspiracy theories and manifesting. Here, I'll read what dear sister Starshine said about that. Okay, so this was Carol. She says, I remember hearing we shouldn't follow the conspiracy theories as it would lead down those paths because it can lead down those paths to be weary of them. But these theories are coming true. Did enough people listen to them, or were they just correct and that it is? Okay, so going back to reality is not what we think it is. All right, going back to reality is not what we think it is, okay? You are traveling through space and time, right? We are on a planet hurtling hundreds of thousands of miles through a solar ring. Our solar ring is traveling hundreds and thousands of miles or kilometers per second, all right? So we are in this constant fast super motion, all right, through space. Now, the Pachamama is a consciousness. Our sun has a consciousness. Our galaxy has a consciousness. We are within many nesting dolls of reality, okay? So when something is solid, what is making that thing solid? It's not written in stone. I can tell you that much. I can take a advanced sound device and actually start to buckle this metal here. I can take a sound device that will start bending this light. I can take a sound device that will actually start having impact on different biofunctions of my system. Okay, so reality is not what we think it is. And there are many, many people in many different kinds of realities walking right next to each other and don't even know it. It's because the stories we have framed up, are framed up, and that's what we believe is the truth of what's happening. Okay, that's what we believe the truth is what's happening. So when you are investing yourself in conspiracy theories, you are co-creating the theory. You are participating in the creation of it. That means not that you are part of the elementals, or no, how do I say that? It's not that, here, better way of saying it, by you focusing or investing a mental, emotional energy into things, you are actually pulling your life force energy into the timeline where that is happening, okay? You're pulling your energy into the timeline that it's happening. Now, there is an argument that it's really good to be aware, and that's true. It is good to be aware, because a lot of these things that we have to face that's buried inside of us, we have to face, okay? And because it's in a blind spot, we have to have someone pull it up out here so we can experience it out here. But once we can experience these things out here without losing ourselves to it, right? Without losing ourselves to it, then we are practicing our sovereignty and our autonomy in the face of these stories. We're actually unhooking from these stories. Now, once you have a narrative fed to you and you're having reactions to it, you're feeling helpless, you're angry, you're frustrated, you're telling all these other people about it, you're doing this, you're doing that. I mean, you're so focused on it because of the intensity that's happening right here, you are pulling yourself towards that timeline and that timeline to you. Timelines can be jumped in and out, in and out, in and out. And from my observation, that is what we're all doing right now. We're jumping in and out of different timelines because we're working with letting go of the tethers we have to the old paradigm. That's why we need to have the conspiracy theories in our awareness, so we can have this reflected to us and let go of our different tethers. One of those tethers that we're working through is the God poison, okay? The Adam story, the Anu story, right? All of this, we're working through that because there was a very deeply embedded program of worship, of God worship. Not these beings were advanced, are advanced creator beings, of course, but they are not the infinite creator. They are not the infinite creator. They are not the ones from which we belong to because we carry that spark of life. Okay. They do not have mastery over us. Now, if we did not have the spark of life and they were, making us via cloning, then they are the masters of us. And that reality is all we have, but that's not who we are. Therefore, we have so much more. Okay, so we are waking up out of the God poison. We're waking up out of these programs that shut down our consciousness and therefore our DNA dance. So in this way, if once you learn how to bring a liberated, empowered perspective into these narratives that you're being confronted with, they serve as a tool of liberation. But until you can step out of the program, they serve as control. Okay, fear and control. Now, who's fearing and controlling? You're fearing, and you're letting that control you. As soon as you step past that, it can't control you anymore. You can't, because you know who you are beyond that lens. You know who you are in all these other levels. Therefore, you recognize everything in a very different way, and you're not inclined to give your power away. If anything, you are driven with passion and resolve to reclaim your sovereignty, to reclaim your power, reclaim your autonomy. Yeah? Okay. So, and that's all right. So we're getting to, sifting through the bombardment of information. So for me, and this is how I manage, because you guys, I get a lot of messages and videos, and I mean, there's so many things that's sent to me, and I don't get through a lot of it. A lot of it I don't even look at, and a lot of it I do, a lot of it I don't. And how do I discern? It all has to do with my senses. So when I'm, because my senses, I follow the messages of my senses, right? So therefore, it's a relationship I've cultivated and that I trust. So when I'm looking at something and I get an immediate feeling like, right? Or I just kind of get a sense of something, a feeling right in here. If it's a feeling right in here, I have a bandwidth to continue with, I might hit play or click on the link and read, right? But if I don't have the bandwidth, as in, I've put a lot of energy out working in different ways, and I don't have the bandwidth to deal with what that feeling is that this particular link or whatever I have when I'm looking at it, then I choose not to look. I choose not to go down the road, right? Now, later on down the line, if it's important, my higher self, my big S self inside will bring them back into my awareness, and maybe I'll go back and listen to it. So there's things that people sent to me days and days, maybe even a week ago, that I maybe just heard yesterday or the day before, or a lot of it I haven't heard. So that's the compass that I use when I'm discerning what I even expose myself to in the first place. And I'm paying attention. There's times when my body, not my mind, but my body is like, I've had enough. How do I know when my body's had enough? Oh boy, I feel like this buzzing going on in my nervous system. It's difficult to just settle. It's like I start craving things that I normally wouldn't crave. I'll start some of my old habits of mitigating pain and suffering will start to come into my awareness, like, oh, maybe this or maybe that, right? Stuff like that will start to happen. So I don't wait till I get sick. I don't wait till my body shuts down before I listen to it. It's like I tune in and I get this sense that therefore I make an action that puts my well-being at the highest value there. Okay, so I pay attention to that. And as you guys know, we're Zooming like crazy with everybody, and that too takes its toll. So, I only have a certain amount of bandwidth with electronics. And so the bandwidth I do have, I have the intent to use it to the best of my, that I possibly can, make the most of it. So some of it's listening to the different reading and listening to the different stories shared with me. And some of it is, my work, that kind of stuff. So we have to decide, really reframe up the amount of time we're investing into the electronic world and find harmony in that. The dear Starshine just shared with me yesterday what she does. She was on quarantine for a while and she couldn't go anywhere, and there was a lot of boredom and stuff like this. So she was on a lot of electronics. So what she was doing after spending a lot of time playing games or whatever, she would go back and look at all of her pictures of the different fairies and devas and stuff that she has pictures of, because she has all kinds of elemental beings that she's worked with the forest and stuff, like who've reached out to her and stuff. And so when she shared that when she's done with all that electronic engagement, she'll go through those pictures, and somehow those pictures impact her. It's like it reconnects her to the natural world. It reconnects her, even though it's through electronics though, but it reconnects her with the elemental realm, with the natural world, and there's a settling that happens. So you can invent the way. You can invent the way. It does not have to be what other people do. So I encourage you to use your creativity and figure out what works. But doubling down on your commitment to be connected to the rhythms of the earth, to be connected to Mother Nature, to be connected with the elemental realms, the plant kingdoms, the water realms. If you place your intent to reconnect with all these other frequencies, that this will help with your well-being in a big way. All right, we have a few comments here. All right, what we resist persists. That comes from Spirit Bound. Then Carol says, thank you for the explanation of the conspiracy theories. This helped. Thought, this is Spirit Bound saying, humanity was given the spark of life because they were programmed to worship. What if it was directed at infinite creator rather than particular creator being? Liberators. Okay, I have to feel into what you're saying. What you're talking about. The spark of life, they were programmed to worship. Yeah, right. So I understand. Okay, yes, that does have something to do with it. They were programmed to worship, and by giving them the spark of life, that gives their the veneration, all that, those who get venerated and worshipped, all that much more power. That is true. I feel that to be true. Yes. And what if it was directed at infinite creator rather than a particular creator being? So I'm not sure what it is. And all right, so this part I don't like talk about a lot because it scares people, and I don't want people to be afraid at all. But the thing is that all the beings, including the creator beings, Enki and Anunnaki and Syrians, Pleiadians, all these other beings, a lot of them, not all of them. I can't say all, but because especially nowadays, I can't say all, but there is a very significant population of consciousness of the Milky Way that is in the infinite reality, that is experiencing reality as an infinite universe. I'm sorry, as a finite universe. Okay. That is something that has been engineered at a very, very high level. And those of you who work on these levels totally know what I'm talking about. A lot of you guys are in the academy, and that is a thing. But the big piece here is the Pachamama. Mother Earth, or anything and everything that exists on this planet has to first get the yes with the Pachamama in order to be so. If you're not in resonance with some level of yes within the Pachamama, you can't even come into this field and incarnate. So agenda to give the spark of life to humanity so they can reprocreate, right? Yeah, some people think that it was because he was in love with his concubine, and that's why he did it. But I think there's some other way more to the story than that. It wasn't just this, giving in the love thing. There was a purpose. But because of that part of the Pachamama, that's the spark of life that does connect us. All right. I'm trying to put it into words. I'm having a difficult time. I'm sorry about that. All right. Okay. I usually have a better way of saying things, but this one's a hard one. Maybe you can see can sense intuitively where I'm getting at with the element of the Pachamama in there. So the finite reality goes all the way out past these lenses even, and there are people waking up out of the finite and coming into the infinite. So that is so, and part of the avenue for that to be so is that spark of life. That spark of life, let's say that's the doorway that allows it to happen. That's the doorway that allows the impossible to happen. That's in my perspective, how I see it. Of course, I might tune in and find out more information or be shown something and I change my mind on that, because that happens all the time. All right, darling. So let's see. Our dear Joanne says, the challenge of becoming re-educated and maintaining center is to simply witness is a daily reality. Yeah, it's a tough one. The Anunnaki are just as trapped as their slaves. Yes, exactly. They are. Exactly. Sunbo, Felfie. Hi, Sunbo. Is that? Oh, hey, how you doing? Okay, only 200 characters long. Please let me know what that is. Is that the link that I shared? Is that the protocol that I shared? If it is, I can recopy and paste it or put it into a document. So what happened is that he doesn't put that information out anymore in his newsletters. He used to. So I have an old copy of one of his newsletters that actually went right into your mailbox and stayed there. And now he mails links out to a website that gets changed all the time. So I will go back and redo that. I'll go back and relook at it. All right, the last post was not accurate. Mediates EMF radiation. Yes, the FLFE. Yes. Okay, this is an app on your phone. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Yeah. It takes a second for me to catch on. So this is the FLFE is an app on your phone that tunes you in when you're in its field. It puts out these mitigating frequencies. Yes, so I think it might be just FLFE.com, something like that. So that's like $14 a month or something like this, and you can do this. You could do your house, you could do your phone, whatever. I actually had the trial on that and did our house, and I did notice a difference because our house was in our neighborhood. They were putting in those wireless meters and stuff like that. So I did know a difference with that. All right. Apologies. This isn't important for anyone but me right now. Don't get distracted. Okay, no problem. The link and type in a comment on YouTube. Oh, okay. Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much for keeping me informed with that. Okay, so there's just a couple more things I want to get. All right, there's just a couple more videos that I want to direct you towards, okay? Because this part of the geobots and the magnetics and the programming and the EMF fields, all that stuff compiled together. This is a nesting doll. These are nesting dolls of fields that are actually preparing for mind control. They're preparing for very significant influence over your personal thoughts and feelings, okay? So, and there is a video that dear Sister Joanne posted, and I think this was also posted in our alternative group called Empowered Souls and Free Thinkers Alliance. And this is the interview with, I think her name was Diane O'Brien. She was sharing her experiences of being involved with the MK Ultra Mind Control Program. Now, I didn't get to see that whole interview just because, like I said, the bandwidth thing, but there was something that she pointed out multiple times, and it was like she was beating a dead horse, but I understand exactly why she was pointing it out, because it is the deciding factor of your susceptibility to mind control. Okay, so here's the deal. So she says you need to know what it is, what it feels like to be set up to be susceptible, to be suggestible. You need to know what it looks like, what it feels like when you're getting set up to be exposed to be susceptible to suggestions. Okay, just like with hypnotizing, when you go through a hypnotizing session, there's parts of your subconscious open up, and you're very easily susceptible to suggestion. Okay, so that's in a therapeutic setting, but there's also other kinds of settings: shock, trauma, extreme emotional reactions. All of these set you up. Opens up your subconscious to make you susceptible to suggestions. She said that. I stopped watching about halfway through. She said that 4 times before I stopped watching. And this is the most important thing you guys got to recognize, because this is what's happening on a mass scale. This is what's happening in a much larger level. People are getting manipulated. They're getting influenced by all these nesting dolls of different layers of technologies, different frequencies, and they're utilizing every avenue they possibly can. It's not just one. It's many avenues. It's many flavors of nesting dolls that are hooking up and working together to make you susceptible to these certain suggestions. Okay. So keep that in mind. That's the biggest thing you need to recognize, because you can, once you know what it feels like, once you know what it looks like, then you can actually be empowered with that awareness and choose differently. You can choose to close the doors to your subconscious so you are not susceptible. You can choose to actually fortify or encrypt your DNA dance so it cannot be infiltrated by belief system stories, whether they be conspiracies or something else, right? So you can do this with your awareness. It takes a meditative focus. That's all. All of us know how to meditate. All of us know how to focus. But if we prioritize that in our day, in our habits, that is where it actually gets traction in our daily lives, and we can completely turn the tables around on these power over dynamics unfolding in our lives. Okay. Whew, that hour went by so fast. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of the party, being a part of the conversation. I really appreciate you guys being here. If you want to support our channel, please, I ask you to subscribe, hit like, maybe make some comments. Let us know if you have any of these experiences that I'm talking about, experiences with the electromagnetics of shedding, or anything like that, or any kind of suggestions to help people navigate discerningly with the bombardment of information. Share what has worked for you. I'm sure many people would benefit from that. So thank you again for being here. If you want to check us out on Telegram, Multidimensional Human on Telegram, Rise of the Multidimensional Human on Facebook, and that alternative group that we post, that other information was posted to, is Empowered Souls and Freethinkers Alliance. So that is it for me today. Love you guys. Make it a great day. Mwah. Till next time. Bye-bye.